a reflection of the cars going by through the window. But I'm slowly now reducing the sensitivity. We do that, do a alarm settings and sensitivity down one marker, so it's succeeded and done. And if you want to watch stuff, you do that, play back, front door.
I could catch the squirrel stealing their tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
You caught him?
No, I was wondering. They only get tomatoes of a certain size. Big tomatoes they never get. And actually there's a banister, and the squirrel gets the tomato, gets up on top of a railing, and then eats half of it.
Here's what you can do, is you can set the alarm in the camera to go off. It does the siren.
And then run them off.
It would run it, you don't have to do anything.
Until they get used to it.
Yeah. They have to get used to the alarm siren, but yeah.
I had a bush with strawberries, and I was just wondering, because what I would do is I go out in the morning, if there's strawberries, I would pick them and just eat them. And sometimes I get out there, somebody else has eaten strawberries, you know. I didn't put it together until I saw the tomatoes. They don't eat the whole tomato.
Mm-hmm. Just take a bite out of it.
Yeah, about on the top, about a third. That's it.
You planned extras for them, right?
I didn't really count on them.
That's all it is. You gotta plan extras.
Well, then you now know next year to do.
Yeah, this actually is the first time that I ever noticed it. Those squirrels have been back there forever. But it's the first time.
Now here's the trick part with your FOSCAM and those other ones. You can run an app and pull the trigger on your gun
And shoot the squirrel.
and shoot at the squirrel. He would get the message. Just shoot up in there amongst them, and they get the message.
It probably would be worth it with the raccoons.
Yeah, you can run an app when you seize motion. And you just go in and select the name of the app that you want to run. It can be a sound, it can be a .com, it can be an .exe, whatever you want. It'll run it when it gets action, when it sees motion or whatever you want. It's cool. It plays sound. That's what I do. The dog sort of stuff. And it's easy. Anybody else get any toys? I got a Raspberry Pi 3 Model 2.
No, actually, I got a new cover for mine with a fan in it. I got one of those black boxes, and it's got not that it needs a fan, but I just got one with a fan in it.
All we need is apps.
Apps?
Apps. What are you going to use it for?
I'm going to put, what's this thing called? Well, one thing that you can do is you can put like a browser on it, and so you can surf to the internet. But there is a media center. Not that I need another media center, but it's called Kudu.
There's a bunch of them.
You load that on it. Just have options up there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't justify any of this stuff. What always questions me.
There's an IDE that was written for Chrome.
Oh, okay. Chromeuino.
Chromeuino. And it does.
It's a Arduino IDE that was written for the Chromebook. Because
Okay, so like
we were talking out there at the thing, and
A lot of stuff happening with the Chromes. I'm enthusiastic about having them be compatible with the world.
but the last time I tried this one, it was updated November 3rd, 2014, so that's probably the version I used, and it was okay. It worked. It did what it was supposed to do, but it left a lot to be
It
desired.
was the old version of the IDE.
I'm not even sure. It compiles, it actually sends your thing somewhere online, compiles it and brings it back. So I'm not real sure what version it's using. But there it is.
Okay, Chromecast.
It has to interact with the cloud service to compile your sketch. The service is completely free and transparent, but you must have internet connectivity to compile your sketches.
I've got a new jump this week. I got a microphone for my FM transmitters, FM stereo, AM, FM standard broadcast. And I got a twist tie cutter, Kenny, for your coffee.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
cut off one of those.
What's that do?
That's just, you can make any length twist tie that you want. He's gonna twist tie his remote for his weather station under something. You just pull out the length you want, and it has a little cutter at the
That's
bottom.
funny. I hadn't considered that they would come that way. It's one of those things like twist ties, the
Only when
weirdest
you
thing to buy.
visit the premier establishment called Big Lots.
Oh, yeah, big lot.
I guess for some reason I just never bought twist ties. I didn't know they came in that form. You should get
Put
some
the two
now.
of them together to get a bigger one now.
I did.
Yeah.
I just went out and got some of the cords. I had those little twist ties. I got 4 of them now. Kind of twist and twist and twist and twist. Okay.
I've seen long twist ties before, but I didn't know you could make your own twist tie.
I guess it makes sense because it's just you just
Just
cut.
wire.
I mean, that's basically what it is. Just never think about it.
Wire
I got-
covered in
I got that
paper.
little display up in the computer room upstairs. I've got the sensor down in the deck, and it's the picnic table. So it's weatherproof. So it can be in the weather, but it's not going to get rained on. But it's all right. I'm looking at that thing, it says 82 and humidity 82. That's hot.
Any bets on whether I can run remote desktop and Chromecast at the same time?
Why shouldn't you be able to do that?
It's
Because remote desktop's not gonna use any bandwidth unless you're doing something.
bandwidth. You got to generate the entire screen. You got to pass the entire screen information from one to the other, and you got to replicate the screen here, and then you got to take that same screen and send it to that.
This is only a display kind of, okay.
On the other
It
hand,
still should work.
let's see if I can do it through Chrome. How about that? Let's make it hard. What's that?
So you got a Chromebook?
Yeah, I've got a Chromebook. Paid $150 for a Chromebook.
Yeah, really good buy. I mean, is it?
Well, it's
what it
it's
does?
not going to be one of the ones that is going to support all the drawing software.
See, that actually is better by the other one.
Oh yeah, it's the same price. Well, this was cheaper than that.
That's a real computer.
Okay, so I'm connecting to the home. Maybe. Remember, we only have a 5 meg pipe out here.
Maybe not even that.
So probably not, just a lot of people sharing that.
It's connecting, maybe. Let's see, why couldn't I get it over here right now? I'm logged in. Okay, there it goes. See if this one gets it. Oh, they could have it blocked. That's true. I think it's blocked. So the answer is no, you can't do it, but it's not their fault. Oh, okay, let's see. Okay, it's coming up. Maybe.
Check on that test device now.
I mean, drive missing. Device missing?
I have a test device which hasn't
Oh,
been
you know
on
what?
for
I
a
gotta
while.
check
I don't need it
connect
all
to
the
the
time.
other
It's in a charger, but it's like, okay. Forget about that one. I usually only bring it out for testing.
I'll use Cast Desktop. That's stretching it. Okay, I got that. Now let's go back to the other. Yeah. You can talk to it, it communicates with it enough to get the pin, but then it, yeah, they're not allowing it. Bummer. And they're all my desktop PCs I can get to. All right, I'll go ahead and start the, no, that. The servo thing. Oops. Oh, there it is. It did come up on this one. Now let's see if I can, these are, got focus on the hummingbird figures now. So let's see if I can Chromecast now. And one more step and we'll be there. Okay, we're up. Now that's the other one. Stop sharing that one. Because this is heavy duty. Try it again. I'll try it without the fancy stuff. Failed to cast. Please try again. Dismissed.
Yeah, we seem to be having some issues.
Probably maybe because we're blowing up the line too heavy. Let's see if I can get to it with this one. Yeah, that one's working fine. That's the wrong one.
I would help if I actually get the right pin numbers.
Okay, now I got it over here, and I'm showing it on my screen, but it's not on the right tab. I guess that's what it is. So let me try. Stop. It is squirrely. Cast desktop. Select that. Click entire screen. Share. Then this has got the horsepower to do it. It can be done. Oh, okay, it's not on that screen. And there it is. Those are the hummingbird feeders. This is the down hummingbird. And this is the up hummingbird feeder. And there is, that's cardinal right there.
I think I used to have that same little bird feeder.
It's a whole $1 at Walmart.
A whole $1.
A whole $1.
Whole dollar. I think I might have the same one.
You could take a 2-liter bottle of pop and convert it into a bird feeder.
Did it used to have? Well, no, actually, wait. Mine's not the same one. Mine has stems on it. I think the Rhode Hummingbird needs stems.
Ding dong.
Oh, it does the audio too, which is one thing that's relatively new. I've never noticed it before. It does. That was saying that this one. Remember, I said you could play anything. That's just an audio tune. I went and said, "See the door sound," and picked the sound I wanted to play, and it played.
Can you see the door?
The door?
Yeah.
The front door? No, that's on the other one.
Oh, okay.
That's the other system. That's the problem. The difference with the new systems with the audio is totally different from this one. And you have to be you can do it, but it has to be running Windows 7, and it's a different beast. Remember my story about you have to have the Internet Explorer, real Internet Explorer, which means you run Windows 7.
It says
Wait, you can run Windows. You can run Internet Explorer on Windows 10 though.
You need that app.
That works.
Yeah, it uses the features of Windows Explorer. Okay, and you run it. If you run it here, it'll say need Windows Explorer because it runs it through Windows Explorer and its extensions or whatever, and it won't recognize that it's Windows Explorer.
God dang it.
Hey, there's a hummingbird.
Yeah, there he is. There's something right
You
there.
could run IE in Windows 10, I would think, though.
If you install it, if
Except
you try
it's
to
not
install
in
it,
that
it'll
IE.
say install Windows Explorer, and it's on CNET,
Yeah.
and you go install it, but it won't be Explorer.
Oh. It needs Windows Explorer specifically?
It says Windows Explorer specific.
Damn it.
And it detects what version you're running, and it won't let you install it. You guys may be able to find it. That's a good challenge for Leroy.
I don't even touch
Oh,
Windows.
jeez. I feel like I would just put that in a virtual machine and forget about it. Oh, God.
Okay. All right, Jeremy, you ready to go? You ready? You gonna do it? You gonna have this
sure.
session?
Oh, sure. Hang on a second. Okay, am I connected to... What am I connected to right now? It's RNX, right?
Yes.
Okay.
RNX,
so
TX,
I got
something.
I got the demo now with the thing that works. Yay!
Yay!
I gotta say that with a high voice because there's no joy in it otherwise. Okay, so first I gotta turn off the video. So it actually doesn't matter. It's local. Okay, let's start this sucker up. So yeah, again, this is just an implementation. Yours probably will not work this way. It honestly doesn't really matter what language or framework you use. One standby. I'm gonna after the IDE comes up, I'm gonna go ahead and start casting. Shut off that.
That could be in Hawaii. That tree at the end looks like Hawaiian-ish. They have a lavender garden in Hawaii, in Maui, to be specific.
Permissions. One moment, it's loading. Probably shouldn't be running Slack at the same time. I got 4 people on this thing.
Use some more memory.
Memory! It's supposed to be expendable though. If I put more into it, then it's like I'll actually care if a bird shits on it. I'm trying to balance my needs here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna get a screen upgrade.
We're being televised, remember that.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that.
Thanks to Leroy.
Yeah.
Bird lovers might have some against it.
And remember that release you signed? That was Art. We remind you, Art.
Oh Christ.
Look at
Oh,
that.
what is that? I gotta remember that, or like every cast that we do or I'm presenting is gonna become rated R. Okay. Alright, so we don't need the first one. We need the second one. And cast to stop cast shared cast desktop. Now cast. Hello. Push
You're there.
desktop. Well, it's supposed to go to desktop.
You're trying to cast
Did you
full
select
screen?
desktop? It's
Yeah.
changed up a
Hang on,
little bit.
Stop. Yes.
Yeah,
desktop.
they've updated the cast app.
Oh, okay. There we go. Entire screen. Boom.
And then you have to
Share.
select Chromecast, and then you have to say select the entire
Yay.
screen again.
We're up. Okay. So,
Ah,
There
yeah.
it is.
same thing. Door opening's back. Yay! Except I only got one call now. I brought in some. I brought in some libraries to do auth, but basically it's mostly the same stuff. I just put in. Obviously, I don't have a garage door to bring in with me. That would have been really bulky. But I just put little placeholders to say, okay, wherever the print is wherever you'd put the code to actually do the thing. And I just went ahead and just put little messages in there, see where it is. Now, nice thing about this is that, again, I don't want to be too platform specific, but this is a common feature with a lot of API frameworks, and that's auto documentation. You're like this. So if I go ahead and go in my browser and go to the API call without actually doing an API call, it'll bring up, yay, docs. So here we have door opening, called door open. It controls door, and it takes a get, delete, and post. I kind of used the example from earlier where I'm kind of thinking of, for the sake of having the call be repeatable, I'm gonna consider like the door to be something you post and delete. I know that's kind of weird. There isn't actually any data doing that, but conceptually it at least allows it to be repeatable. And you can actually, I don't need to bring up the REST client. This particular framework, I'm using Django REST framework, but other ones can do this too, where I can do let's do a get. There's a button for me to do a get. It's on and returns door status open. And if I go to the console, and it sent the door state. So I have the get doing the, well, if you do a get, it returns what's that the door status the door is in. If you do a post, I'll just do an empty object. If you do a post, then hello. you post a door opening, door status is open. If you do a delete, yes, delete. If you do a delete, then it returns door status closed. So yeah, now we have a call that can do get that we actually use the verbs, and you can kind of see where I just have an if statement that's checking for the request method, get, post, or delete. So that's one way you can do it. I didn't put permissions on this for the sake of simplicity. But yeah, it really is. It's that simple. It's basically just. I just took the demo I had from last week and did another 20 minutes on it. So and this is actually pretty nice because like you can go to your API with you can go to your API and just see what all the calls are. So when you're coding the other thing, you don't have to keep swapping back and forth all the time. So that's good. So yeah, that's that. I guess I could also do it with the client. For the sake of completeness. We'll do localhost. Nope, I don't have that one. It's API v1. 1/door opening. And do a get send.
Wasn't it just door
Oh,
open?
JSON. I forgot. Content type. Oh, it's sending the page back. Well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's actually the page for that thing. Do a post. That looks awkward, doesn't it? I guess that doesn't really help at all because that just looks awkward. Anyway, yeah, 200. I have to go back down to find it. Okay. Anyway, yeah, that works. I don't have the content type right. That's why it's doing that. But yeah, you can kind of see how that works. That's pretty much. I mean, it doesn't take long to build. I'm gonna try to. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Who wasn't here yesterday, or not? Who wasn't here last week?
Didn't make a lot of sense to me last week, but it's okay.
Well.
That's just beyond my realm of what I'm familiar with.
It's web page. It's just an HTTP endpoint that's gonna. You're not serving a page. Well, this one's serving a page because it's serving the docs. If that makes any sense. It's serving that because it's serving the docs. I mean, really, if you have an application, that's all it's sending back.
It might make a little more sense when I turn that thing on.
Yeah.
And we see a real live physical.
But yeah, basically it's just all it is. It's the same as serving a web page, except you're not serving a web page. And like instead, the only thing it returns is maybe that little JSON string. and you're not going to navigate to it with a browser to go to the web page. You just have, on whatever application you're coding, you're basically just sending an HTTP request to that endpoint that basically says do the thing. And then like basically I'm just demonstrating that. You can see that when I do that, it's doing whatever's in here. Basically, like if it's a post, do that. If it's a delete, do that. If it's a get, do that. And then like I can put in, for example, well in this example, like I would substitute the print with whatever code does. For example, this would be running on the Pi, and that would open my garage door, or close my garage door.
You just don't display anything.
You just don't display anything because it's a machine's on the other end, not a person. Unless you're looking at the docs, then it is a person. And then like, and since it's the only thing it's really supposed to be interacting with the machine. Like this page, I'll bring it up again real quick. This page is actually. If you go to here with a browser, you're going to get this page because like this is basically just the docs for the API call. It's just documentation. Which, since you're not going to be serving since the machine doesn't really care, you might as well serve something there. So like if I guess this would make sense if I had like 6 or 7 of these, or let's say 15, 20, 50 of these. I could go ahead and browse through all of the docs in there, and I'm like, okay, I need the door open. I'll look at this page and say like, hey, okay, so this thing takes a get, delete, post, and well, apparently it takes options, but I guess that's by default. And then so I'd know what I'd have to do in order to trigger this endpoint. So I wouldn't have to like so whoever's writing the application on the other side can easily see that, okay, to use this endpoint I got to do this, and that's what it sends back. So that's what I expect back. So it's kind of convenient in-place documentation for how to talk to the thing. And a lot of frameworks are going to have that.
Sense?
Where it's like, make your call, auto-generate a page, hey, docs.
If you were developing an Android app, for instance, with just 2 buttons, open and close,
Yeah.
you'd need to know what the call was for that particular website, for that particular thing, and you need to either use a GET request or a POST request or a delete request to that site in the certain format that it's looking for, which would be JSON format.
Yeah, and actually this one doesn't take anything.
Right.
This particular one doesn't take anything. Just shove an empty object in there.
But it's looking for
if
JSON
it was
format.
something like make a new comment or something, or like change a setting, you'd send something like you would send
But
something
how does
like.
it get to once you're trying to make it do?
Well, the app that you're making would send, when you hit the button open, it would send that to the website. The website would send back a status report, either yes or no. In his case, I guess it says open or closed.
Yeah, it'll send open or close.
Now, suppose you don't have the button.
But it sends it to.
You still can do that same function.
But it needs to send it to a
Website.
third machine, right?
No.
No.
Like this will be
Something that-
serving out of this whatever server you have controlling your stuff. Well, I guess it would send to a third machine. Like
If
guess-
you were running that on a Raspberry Pi, where he's got it saying the status reports right there,
yeah, this guy is like a placeholder for.
you could actually put
It's
code in there that
your-
says turn the relay on or turn the relay off.
Open the garage door.
To do.
So
Open the
that,
front door.
that code is actually loaded onto.
A Raspberry Pi
Oh.
or an Arduino. Well,
Yeah,
probably not an Arduino with that code, but
like
an Arduino could run similar code.
I mean, well, actually, I guess realistically, you have the Arduino opening the garage door, and the Raspberry Pi would then tell the Arduino to do it. But the Raspberry Pi would be serving the API. And then, like, I guess realistically, you'd have, like, maybe a module somewhere that would be, like,
Yeah,
import garage door opener, and then I would basically do like, or
In your model, that would be true. Like when I did the robot though, and I had the robot serve the Arduino running the web server, I was basically just sending API requests to it. It was ones or twos or.
I mean, I guess from this standpoint, this is just how I would do it. I would have made a module with the code that actually opens the garage door, and then I just import and call that function.
Right.
Just to keep
it simple.
Yeah, keep things separated, so I don't have a whole bunch of one-time garage door opening thing, because I'm probably going to want other stuff to open it too.
Yeah.
But you get the idea. Like basically you can, from the web or whatever network this is running on, have an application send an HTTP request and then operate the machine basically.
So everywhere where it says print sending garage state, print opening door, print closing door, that could just be code to turn a relay on or turn an LED on or whatever.
A door closing function here.
Yep. So that.
Yeah, and it's basically.
If that doesn't clear it up like mud.
Yeah, it's basically it pretty much does the same thing that, like, you know how you make a web page with a couple buttons and that would operate the door. It's basically the same thing, except this is for a machine, not a person. And that becomes actually pretty useful, because like you can use this sort of build a larger system. Like let's say like you have 6 or 7 of these garage door things, and you all want to control from a central place. You can have one application that can just do the request to control that, and that can serve a web page. Or maybe you also want to have a mobile app to do it. And then maybe also you want to have like maybe some automated.
Maybe more practical. Think about
Robot.
Hotel room.
What if your robot wants to open the garage door? And your robot has an internet connection. Your robot can go here. He doesn't have to navigate the web pages and whatnot. Like typically when I make like a web application, I have the regular pages, and then I have an API that does the same thing as the regular pages. That way, okay, all the humans go here, all the machines go there, basically. that way, your thing is machine usable. I guess if that makes any sense. That sounds a weird way to say it, but you get the idea.
Well, long time ago, before APIs came around, the only way to do that was like scrape the screens. You'd set your code up to send a request, and then you would have to do a screen scrape and read.
And if they change something, then it like.
And if they change something, if a block wasn't where it used to be, that code would break.
Well,
so an API.
If I need to do that, then if they did their pages well to be like, I guess. Disability accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by standard, you're supposed to have useful naming in there, so like blind people with screen readers can do it, and that's one way to make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But still, if you change the page, it's like.
I used to write stuff that would scrape the screens. And
now I get
people
really,
used to yell at me all the time.
Because I actually for work I had this thing with FedEx where I have to get data from them. And they don't have one for one of their things, and so it's like I have and I'm trying to figure out how to automate it, and I'm like, why really have to scrape the site to do this? And it's like, okay, you've got to do that, and I'm gonna name it something I can yell at. I'll name him Fred, so every time he breaks, I can say, God damn it, Fred. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, I guess I'll switch over to you. Do you need? I need to let go of the screen, don't I?
Oh,
no, he can take it.
I can steal the screen.
But yeah, it doesn't have to be like basically you can do it in any language. You can do it in PHP, you can do it in JavaScript. I do it in Python because that's what I use at work. That's probably not the simplest way to do it, honestly, because that's a stack I use to make web services that handle data that has problems if it gets lost. But But basically, any platform that can serve web pages or any language that you typically use to serve web pages and such, you can use it to build something like that instead. Same mechanics. You just have to rearrange it a little differently. And actually, it's even simpler because you don't have HTML to worry about. Machines don't care what your page looks like.
Or Python's been around so long. I was trying to clean up the computer after the kids were playing around with it. I thought it was a video game. Python. So I deleted it.
Deleting Python.
No,
Yeah.
well, if you're on Windows, nothing really uses it. If you're on Linux, then it has a problem because lots of things use it. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So let's see if we can make this work now. Now that I realize that I was sending it the wrong stuff. So this is Teleduino, and he's got two different versions of it. Both versions right now are using the Ethernet shield because that's what he designed it to work with. It's actually a pretty cool thing. I've got it plugged in, hardwired. I've already gotten some status reports, so I know it's working here in the library. But he's got it set up to use either the Uno or the Mega, depending upon which one you need. And it's a little different when you start looking at how you would address the analog pins, but nothing that is a big deal. And these are all the endpoints that you've got to play around with. So we're going to look at which one? Get an analog input. So to get an analog input, because the analog inputs are numbered a little bit different, I've got a sensor hooked up to 54, or to A0, which is pin number 54. So I click on that, and I actually have to change my pin number to 54.
And you'll get back.
And I get back a response here, and this is the response that the machine would see. It's formatted in a JSON object, and
Well, I guess not really. No.
well, it tells you that it got the message and it was okay. Tells you the result, that it actually talked to the machine, and that it came back in a certain amount of time, so you know it's fairly recent data. And the value off of the photoresistor that I've got is 198. So 198 right there. So if we needed to take light readings for whatever reason, let's see if it changes. Nope, still 198. So it's 198, whatever in here. So if we needed to take light readings for whatever reason. And the other thing,
And then, yeah, that's what it looks like if you formatted it for reading. But
yes,
it doesn't really care what it just cares that all the brackets are in the right place and all the colons are in the right place.
we
Well, in
could,
the right order.
yeah. And there's JSON libraries for the Arduino to actually read this stuff. So you don't even need to know that. But this is I've got 3 digital outputs where the LED's hooked up. And I can change. So if I had an app that I needed to do something, I could change pin 6. It didn't look like it did anything. It did something. I saw it. 6, pin 7. There, that changed it. Now the interesting thing about how he's got this one set up is one of the calls that you can do is, see here it says save. It saves the state of the LEDs inside the EEPROM. So when you restart, if it needs to restart or whatever, it can put everything back to the state where the power was taken away from.
Nice.
So that's a pretty handy feature, actually. It's something that I didn't realize happened until a few minutes ago, because I kept wondering why all the LEDs were on.
Oh yeah, the nice thing with I guess another nice thing, I don't know how relevant it is to right now, but the nice thing about JSON, in addition to just being really, really simple, unlike XML, is that if you are writing a web app or a web page or something, and you're in the front end, and you're working in JavaScript, JSON's pretty much the same as JavaScript's data structure. So you actually don't even need a library to parse it. If you take that, you shove that into a variable in JavaScript, it'll just become, it'll effectively become an object, a dictionary, and a list. So, and actually, like I guess the primary use of this is like for the front end JavaScript to talk back to the server for like Ajax and stuff. So what you can do, what you can actually do is you can make a web app or a web page that then, as usual, the HTML and the JavaScript go to the browser of the user, and then instead of going back to whatever serving that web page query the API, under some circumstances you can actually have the JavaScript on the browser side query the API, which can help with scaling and such because your server doesn't have to do it. Now that probably doesn't matter for regular web pages, but if you're going to be serving like maybe a few thousand of these, it helps.
We can do pulse width modulation as well. So if we wanted to make that LED brighter, what did I have? I don't remember what kind it was. I made it dimmer, actually. So I could do pin 5. Now it's kind of a violet color. So I could mix what's going on. It's actually
the address there.
Yeah, it's all done through the web address. And that would be, that web address, you see it's got a token in it. That token, this big long number here, is also inside of the sketch on that. That's how his website knows where to actually send what I'm telling it to do.
Yeah. I guess everyone's familiar with query strings, right?
Don't know.
Well, I guess I'll bring it up because that's what that is. Like, if you put your URL and you do a question mark, and then, you know, you can just put any value like k equals this, and obviously if you use an and, you gotta escape it. But basically just question mark wherever you can. That's how you pass in. That's how you pass in values, especially if it's like a get. If it's like a get request.
It's a get. It is
because get requests can't have request bodies, so you pass in your variables that way.
And right here it tells you what the variables are.
Yeah. So that's how you pass those in.
So it's pretty well documented. The differences that I've seen. The analog inputs on the Mega have different numbers than the Uno. So I guess that's there's also a lot more I/O on the Mega and a lot more memory. But
as an example, like instead of, and there's another way to do it. Instead of using like get, post, delete as the HTTP verbs, I could also just pass in, like, if I wanted to do it by passing in a query string variable, like I could probably have door state equals pass in closed if you want it closed. That's another way to do it. I guess for the sake of like for the sake of security issues, it's a bit counterintuitive, but actually the query string for a lot of purposes is not considered part of the URL. So if you use HTTPS, it will actually encrypt the query string, everything after the question mark. That's kind of counterintuitive, but that is how it works. So if you worry about that, you don't have to. I mean, really, auth tokens, I still prefer to pass them in headers anyway, but you can actually pass auth tokens in via query string and they'll be okay if you're using HTTPS. I know it kind of doesn't seem that way because, like, I'm putting in the URL and you can see the URL is going up. Well, no, it's not considered part of the URL for the purpose of that. It's weird.
and it's weird.
Yeah.
You see,
Artifact of hell.
last week
HTTP should work.
Last week, Jeremy had mentioned versioning of your API. So the version of this one is 1.0.
Yeah.
So if he wanted to change something or add something, he would make a 2.0 or a 1.1 or whatever, and he would tell everybody who's using this, the new one's coming in 3 months, or switch all your programs to use the new version because the old version is going to go away in 3 months.
Yeah.
Well, that's typically when I see it done.
Yeah. And really, like, it doesn't matter as much if you're just doing it by yourself. It definitely matters if you have someone else on there. Like generally I do it I do it like I have a version of the API and I can make changes to it all I want as long as you're adding something. If you're changing something that's existing or you're removing something, I put that off until version 2 or 3 or wherever I'm going.
Yeah.
That way it's backwards compatible as long as you stay on the same number. Now, even if you're by yourself, I will say that I tend to do it even if I'm by myself, just because if I've got like 6 or 7 things that are using that API, I don't want to switch them all like right now. It's just going to be, it's like, okay, stop everything.
And everything's down until you get.
Until I change it. And so it's like, so I'll do it anyway just to save my sanity. God. So yeah, it's worth doing even if you're on your own, just because you are kind of your own client in that case.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be a pain to yourself.
You don't want to break your own stuff, or maybe you do.
The docs help too, even if because like you will do this like because when you go code the other application, your headspace is going to be over there, not over here, and so you're going to keep going back. And if you don't have like good if you don't have good docs, then it's like you're going to keep going back and forth, going like, what did I name that?
You waste a lot of time.
Yeah, it's like, what did I name that? How did I do this?
Even with this Arduino stuff, it pays to have, when you run it, have some kind of message that tells you what version it is. You know, I might have 15 Arduino scripts, and then I forget, well, which one does what, or what's the difference. If you have the code, you can look at the code and it tells you. But if you're running it, I mean, you don't know what version you're running, so you really need to even say, even within an application, say this is what version is running. It just saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well,
The memory's not that good.
speaking of that,
You make it easier for
I
yourself.
can get the
Go
version
away.
of So I don't know what this actually means, but the version of the sketch running on that is 2560-0.1.2.
Okay.
I don't know. That's the version that I got, so that's the version that works.
And if you had that version, I mean, if you had your code named properly,
Yeah.
you would know.
I would. Well, I'm imagining 2560 refers to the mega because it's an atmel 2560, and
That's interesting. I guess like I think what I'm seeing here is like the beginning is like the model of the Arduino it's supposed to be running on.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing I'm guessing the everything after the dash is basically semantic version.
the version numbers. Yeah.
Like if you like typically, and I'm not entirely sure if this is the case, but typically if you have like this number, and this number, it's using standard where it's like the first number is major version, so if that increments, it's not backwards compatible. The second one is like major patches, and the third one is like minor things.
That would be my imagining too, but I really don't know. I don't know how he.
You set up your own rules.
Yeah, and he could have very well set up his own
He
rule.
might have his own rules, but generally, if I see like number, I tend to assume that's what's going on because that's a
I would think
standard way of doing it.
I would think that the .2 means that there were minor error corrections or something. The .1 is probably the original version.
Like especially with like web frameworks and whatnot, like you don't want to update to a new version that will break your stuff, and so like, but previous ones might need things like security fixes and whatnot, and so like you might have 1.9, which is newer than 1.8, which needs a security fix, so it's going to become, so the first one becomes 1.81, and the other one becomes a 1.91. So sometimes you got to apply updates to versions that are older,
Kenny,
that you can't avoid it.
either unplug it from the Ethernet or unplug it from the battery, and I'll show what happens when that. So you can see what happens when it can't talk to it. So if we try the version number again, to get the version again. It's waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and eventually it's going to fail.
Browsers.
It says timeout, so it's going to talk to.
Oh, it's talking to that. That's talking to something else. That's why it has the. Okay. Well, yeah, I thought you were talking directly to the source. That's why I didn't know what the status was for.
No, it's going through like a proxy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the proxy is sending this back. That's why it kind of has to bubble up the H error. Okay.
Yep. So in the machine world, if your app got a status 504 back, it means I can't talk to the thing. It's probably offline.
Pretty much. That's why you log an error.
So that you'd have a little on your app or on your cell phone app or your web app or whatever app you were actually making to talk to this thing. It would pop a message up that says, "You're done. I can't do anything. Turn me off and start over. Go find the problem."
And that's where you want to log an error, which is nice to do, especially if it's something that kind of has to run on its own. Like if this was your your thermostat or something, you're probably not going to be there to see it go off. You're probably going to want that thing to.
Thermostats are good.
Hey, I had a problem today. Maybe you should look at it.
Or, yeah, if he just unplugged it from the Ethernet, it's still on. You don't really know what the problem is. Somebody's actually got to go and find that device now and figure out why it's not talking, especially if it happens over and over and over again.
Actually, yeah, I guess I should have built. I didn't build a client. I just used the browser client. But if I were to build a client for it, like basically generally anything that's calling like an API like this, I would definitely have it in a try. so I can catch the error, because that is something generally, if it's going to the outside, it's something I expect there to sometimes be a failure for.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually,
Have exception handling.
when I first tried this, I wasn't expecting it to work because I was expecting there to be issues with the library and everything else. This was the only one that I've actually gotten to work using the library stuff. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
And I was like, so just kind of, it works. And there's no real,
Investigate
no real fuss to it, no real, it just sort of worked.
Yeah.
So,
You said.
we're basically, when we're talking about APIs, we're basically talking
Well,
two
this is a web
machines
API. There's all sorts of
talking
APIs.
to
Like when you
each
call
other.
functions, it's an API.
Yeah.
But specifically, this is a quote web API because we're using HTTP web technologies.
And we're trying two machines talking to each other and getting some result back that's visual for you or
For whatever device you're trying to control, which then you can build. That's how you build systems where it's like multiple servers and multiple machines talking to each other.
if that was hooked up to the garage door, one of those requests, and it doesn't say garage door, it says turn on digital pin 6.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense because you already know, from programming the Arduino, digital pin 6 is connected to a relay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. When you make the API, that gives you an opportunity to abstract away like lower level details like that, like your hub or like your mobile app. It probably doesn't need to know the specific pin that it's on. It just needs to know turn this doohickey on, and you tell the API to turn this doohickey on, and only the API needs to know that this doohickey it's on pin 6.
Right.
So it's a way to like.
Well, this
free you from-
API I'm using though is specifically
Yeah, it
written
is specifically tied up, but that is a way you can do it because like what it's controlling, so you can name it as such, so that you don't need to know or memorize all the pins when you're making all your applications and such.
Well, your cell application doesn't care if it's on pin 6.
Yeah.
This thing cares that it's on pin 6.
Like the API application knows, or you code it so it does pin 6 when you call that particular thing. So that's a way to kind of abstract that away.
But we've been messing with APIs for a while, and nobody's really sat down and explained them because like that uses all APIs, and I demoed that.
And it's not the only way you can do it either. Like this is HTTP going to an endpoint. There are other ways to do it. Like there obviously you can always directly connect things and use pins and whatnot. But even over web, it's like sometimes sending an HTTP request to an endpoint is not what you need to do something. Like let's say if you have something that you want to run really real time, it needs to go back and forth because HTTP requests are one way. They go, okay, I need this thing. Okay, give me back this thing. Okay, I need it. What if you need sort of like a sort of real-time both-way connection both ways? In that case, you'd use web sockets, which are basically like that's a direct connection. You need a handshake, but then, which is it's a bit more complicated to set up. But with that, you can send things as close to real time as your connection will allow for like dashboards and things like that. So there's other ways to do it. This is just sort of the simplest, basic, what you'd probably set up first.
Have you ever set up a web service to communicate with clients?
Communicate with what sort of
Web service. Actually, this almost sounds like a web service. web service does not have a user interface program that runs on.
Yeah, this is what you put on top of the web service. This is what you use to communicate with the web service.
Yeah.
Like if you have, like, for example, well, I guess the web service is sort of the name for the whole package, and the API is what you talk to for the web service.
It remembered that I told just the red to be on at 127 pulse width modulations.
Note the value.
I kind of wish I would have found this API a long time ago. It's actually pretty useful.
What would you have done with it?
I don't know, but it's pretty useful.
It's neat.
I like it. That's all I know. It worked really well, and it's.
I think it's really conceptually, like, if it's like an API or a web page, it's like, I guess conceptually, a good way to think about it is that it's basically the interface to control something. Like a web service, a web page does not make a web service or a web app. Well, the actual app is whatever the heck it's controlling, or whatever the heck's underneath it. You use the page or the API or whatever the web layer is to talk to it.
It's like that time, there's a time service out there. You send a request to it and it sends you back the time. Or it's some kind of web service.
Like, yes, there is. NNTP.
Yeah, NNTP. Interface.
Oh, yes, since we have some extra time. Since I've got it up. Let's log in the Keybase real quick. So I've got, I guess, anyone else got anything?
Well, I don't know. I was going to. Okay. Long time ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago, I made a weird app that only ham radio people would even be interested in. But I did it in PHP, and I used probably a dozen different APIs at the time to get your location that was being sent from a radio into a gateway that gated it into the internet. I used an API to get that information, figure out where you actually were at and what buildings were the closest to you, if there was Wi-Fi near you, or if there were other ham radio repeaters near you. And it would all post all that information up to Twitter. And it probably took 7 or 8 different APIs to actually do all of that.
Okay, now, once you do that up to Twitter, I'm trying to figure out what's the benefit.
There was none. It was fun. It was something to do. It was something.
Well, let's say you want to make like a bot that makes funny tweets or something. Like
It actually, as you're cruising down the road, the radio's sending information up into this system, and it would follow you. Potentially could follow where you were at. It was I did it even before Foursquare came around. Foursquare came around and I added it into the API as well, and I could post where I was actually at. Like if I pulled up into the parking lot, the script would post to Foursquare that I was at the library. But it was done with bunch of different APIs. So that's something else that you can do with that is you can take several different APIs and make your own thing that nobody's even conceived of. And why would they?
Although I will caution, like, if you're going to build your business on something, make sure it stays available.
Well,
we'll have
this
problems with that.
This
But,
wasn't a business. It
yeah,
was,
I know.
It was a
Just
fun
before,
thing.
Before anyone gets any ideas, make sure it's something that's going to stick around.
Let's see, Google, Yahoo, and Foursquare, and Twitter. I think Yahoo's probably the only one out of the group that,
Yahoo's still around.
yeah, but it's potentially.
Anyway.
In jeopardy.
So, I
Okay,
built this thing in 2010. So, I mean,
so long ago.
in software world, that probably is pretty.
Back in the day,
Now you know how to make your own.
I
Connect your things
I
together and
listened to
make
the
all the things.
19-year-olds in my class talking about back in the day.
Back in the day, you know, that was actually I had not programmed or done anything since the Commodore 64 days, and that was my back to learning how to do something.
That's really back.
So that's it. That's all.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess as far as process goes, like, okay, you're going to make a device, you want to make an API for it so you can control it from elsewhere. Well, find yourself a framework or something. You don't want to roll your own. It's a pain in the ass. Though honestly, it's probably going to be an add-on to something you already use to serve web pages and whatnot. Maybe sometimes that's the case, but it's basically the same thing. I would recommend getting a framework for auth though, because that's a pain in the rear to roll yourself. And thankfully, it's a lot simpler than web pages because you don't need a username and password or whatnot. Generally, what you do is you store like an auth token. Like you ever get like data from Google Maps or something, and you have to log in and you get this big long string. Pass this thing in your header in order to get the data to work. That's basically what that is. Just get something to generate auth tokens. That way you can put that at your application, so your application can pass a secret in to get in. Other than that, yeah, it's if you got that, you're good to go. It's even quicker build than a website. Machines don't care. I guess other than that, I've got a bunch of, I mentioned this earlier, I've got a bunch of Keybase invites today, since I guess they're ready to, well, they're still in alpha, but they've been expanding user base somewhat. I'm guessing because of new features. Yay! And Keybase is a, if anyone wants any, it is a upcoming, oh shit, it even shows that. Okay, good. It is a key server identity mapping and encrypted file storage service. And I guess to explain some of it, well, there's me. Hello. And I have my I've kind of gone through how to use OpenPGP or GPG earlier. That's my public key. It's basically the same key you're going to find on the key servers. It's that one. But so this is like a key server as well, but it's got other cool stuff that it does. For one thing, that's my Twitter, and I can confirm that is my Twitter, because what it does is it has identity mapping for certain sites. So what you do is it gives you a message that, okay, post this message to your Twitter account, or put this GIST up on your GitHub account or something, and then and then it has to be signed by your private key. So you sign it, and then it goes up, and then now it knows that, okay, here, yes, this is really your account. And so like you can see like you can see the tweet where I put that proof up.
Do you use Snapchat?
Which one?
Snapchat.
What Snapshot?
Snapchat. Do you use that?
No.
You're not in.
I'm
You're
not a
old.
Snapchat person. But
Who uses Snapchat? Teenagers?
I'd assume so.
I'm trying to figure out why I would want to use Snapchat. I haven't come up with a good reason. Well, who I would want to use it with.
But yeah.
Do you know anybody who does, Frank?
I know some kids that use it. You know,
Yeah,
but
so
I
it
don't
does
know.
that. So you can confirm, and also it has a generic entry for this is your website or domain. I assume I haven't done that, but I assume that it's like, okay, here's the message. Go ahead and post this on your website, and then it'll go you'll give it the URL. Here's check it. Yeah, okay, this is your
How many
website.
people use Snapchat?
You put a
So that's
key-based text file into
Yeah.
the root.
that's the boring stuff. And you can also find other people's keys and whatnot in there. That's Leroy. Hello.
Look at all my stuff.
And that's his Bitcoin address. And it's
Yeah,
also
show me
convenient because,
Bitcoins.
like, you know how it's kind of a pain in the ass to bring out, like,
I know benefits. I just don't know.
to bring out GPG in order to encrypt messages for someone.
And it's-
You can do it over here. Now, again, you are putting it into the site, so Keybase can conceivably read this, but if that's not part of your threat model, that's fine. So yeah, let's encrypt the message for me.
Thanks
Hi.
for privacy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just.
Hey, that message. Encrypt. Go ahead and copy and paste that into your email or whatever and send it off. And only I'd be able to decrypt it. So you don't have to get out your command line application, do this, boom, okay, I'm done. So there's a bit of a shortcut for the less important stuff. You can do that. And also, if something is signed by me, you can put the signature in there and it can verify it, because Keybase will be storing the public key, so that means encrypt to me and verify things coming away from me. So those operations you can actually do on the site, which is convenient. But the cool thing is that since OpenPGP is a pain in the ass and it's old as dirt, it still works, but it's old as dirt, pain in the ass, and they actually have their own encryption format called SaltPack, and it's actually NaCl based, aptly named. And well, I guess if you wanted to, you can read all about how that works. But it's basically very similar, but it's much more streamlined. It's much more sane message format. That's what a SaltPack message looks like. That's what PGP. There's source code for it here as well if you want to make applications that use SaltPack. But nice thing about that is that it allows for device-specific keys that are then put into a blockchain, so they can't be falsified after that. You know how Bitcoin works? Yeah, it's basically the same thing. Yeah, I've got two devices here. That's my offline backup, which the offline backups they're named for like a certain phrase that is used to make one, and it lists the first two as the ID. I got odor a name for some reason. It's random words, but there's my laptop, and that is used for if you have the Keybase app.
Oh.
Crypt M. I think that's how you do it.
I don't.
Hello. What's your name again? KD8VXP. If I get this right.
Yeah. Maybe.
I can look up the command if this doesn't work. I'm just kind of pulling it out of my ass right now.
Error.
Oh, look up. Yep. It timed out. Yeah, I think it's because our router here sucks balls. It's the internet connection being. Yeah, it's timing out for some reason. Well, anyway, if we had a good connection, it would have worked, I guess. It was like that's TCP. Oh yeah, okay. So it is actually a timeout error or something. Network error. Okay, whatever. But you could use that command in order to encrypt messages using saltpack, and there would then and you can send those back and forth. So I guess the other interesting thing, which you probably start using, is file system. So when you download the Keybase app, which again the Keybase app, I don't know if anyone's worried about this, but the Keybase app does not import your private PGP keys by default. You have to give it permission to do that. You don't have to. It just means you gotta use the private key manually. So if you don't trust them with your key, you don't have to. But it'll set up directories. This is in Linux. The Windows locations are going to be different, obviously. One's called private and one's called public. And in private, if that's for me, and if I put anything in there, it automatically gets encrypted for me. If I put anything in public, it automatically gets signed by me. Automatically. I just got to copy files in there. And you notice that it has my name in here. If you can also tell it to, I have to look up the command, but you can also tell it to create directories that are available to only you and one other person. So you can have a directory called Jerry Cape, whatever his name is. And if I put things into there, they're encrypted only for the two of us. So it's basically it's like and they're encrypted with the keys you have on your machine. Keybase does not store those keys, so Keybase can't actually read what's in there. I guess as a consequence, it doesn't have a sync function for like file changes or whatnot because of that. So that's kind of a downside compared to Dropbox. But unlike Dropbox, they can't actually read what's in there. So basically, it's automatic encrypted storage all the way from one point to the other.
So be careful. So be careful when you lose all your data.
Well, be careful when making changes on multiple devices for the same thing and it doesn't sync yet. Essentially, because like you're going to end up with a bit of a conflict and you're going to have to resolve it. But yeah, that allows me to painlessly transfer files. Actually, let's try that.
So if I had this app installed on mine and you shared a folder with me, it would just show up on my system?
Yeah, if I show a folder, it would sync up and show up on your system. And the files in that directory would be encrypted with both of our keys. It uses the saltpack encryption. Yeah. Now, the saltpack stuff is the keys are per device, and they're tied to. Well, we have an overall key and keys. I guess I can go into explaining why that works, but that would take a while. But basically, it's encrypted using keys that are only hosted on our devices.
I could see some real benefit to that.
So, and Keybase can't read them. And if you want to make sure of that, then the clients are open source. You can check the code. They use existing libraries. They didn't roll their own encryption. The saltpack is based on the NaCl library, which is also well audited. And message pack format, again, that's also available, and it's just a UI layer on top of that. So that's how it works. Yay! So
do you use this at work?
I don't use it for work. I haven't I've only just started using the file system stuff, and I'm probably going to start using it for a bunch of things I want to transfer to other people, like things like, sometimes you just got to send server credentials. It's not avoidable, so I'd send it that way. Little text file, shove it in the folder, encrypted, send off, and it's totally painless. That's really great. Although, don't use it for, again, it is alpha. Don't put anything there you don't have backups for. They might just, because they might have to wipe it. They've said this, they might have to wipe the entire storage as part of upgrading. So, but yeah, I've got 19 invites if anyone wants any.
It seems like you can get into some real trouble with this. Imagine people like accountants, they want their stuff to be real tight, and they may want it encrypted. But you also need your data, so if you lost it, you lost your business.
Well, that's the thing. You got to keep backups of it. So, yeah, if you lose the key, like if it's encrypted and you lose the keys, no one's getting into it within any reasonable amount of time. So careful of that. Keep backups. I guess just to clarify what the salt pack does. When you install the app and then it generates keys for SaltPack, it does have an offline. It does give you an offline code, basically.
Yeah.
That basically tells you, okay, copy this down,
Save
lock it up somewhere, so that if you lose all your devices, you can reprovision them with this. Otherwise, you got to start over. And it lists the devices here, and the nice thing about that is that it does